Hello and welcome to the Eddie's Tech Talk podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Whether I find you in the commute home from work or after class or in between classes or whatever it is you're doing, thank you for listening to the Eddie's Tech Talk podcast. I think I have a pretty exciting show planned today, and it's going to kind of be hopefully a very clear way of explaining how people buy phones in the United States and kind of the advantages of that, the disadvantages of that, and also it's going to be a bit of a two-parter of an episode, also talking about why people keep buying flagship phones. And when I say flagship, for those that don't know the terminology, that is, everyone's heavy hitter of a phone, everyone's top-of-the-line phone, really. So that would be a phone like the iPhone 10 or the Samsung Note or the Galaxy S8 or, the latest from HTC or, any other manufacturer, the LG V30, for instance. So every manufacturer's top-of-the-line phone. People keep buying these phones, and kind of a rundown of why that is and maybe why that might not be the right decision for everybody. So it's going to be a pretty interesting episode, and I think a pretty eye-opening for a lot of people. Maybe you'll find out that you've been overpaying for your phone all this time. So without further ado, let's kind of get into it. And what I'm going to start with, first of all, is kind of my experience and me walking into a Verizon store the other day, kind of just realizing what they're doing. So before I get to that, I think it's important to go into how people used to buy phones in the United States and then kind of how people buy them now. So what you used to do when you purchase a phone in the U.S. was you went into your carrier store, whether that's Verizon, which I'll use commonly as an example since my carrier is Verizon, but it's similar across AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint for the most part. And so what you used to do was sign up for a 2-year contract. Now what that meant was the carrier would give you a phone, an iPhone, a Galaxy, whatever it was, at a subsidized price, and in exchange you agreed to use their service, their cell phone service, for a 2-year period in time. So what that did was people would go into stores and they would pay $200 for the latest iPhone or $150 for a really good phone or $100 or what have you, and that was the value that people associated with those phones. When really, the iPhone value, even though the iPhone 10 is $1,000 now, the value of these phones has really kind of stayed steady when they've released at $600 to $800, somewhere in there, in that range. It's been that way, since smartphones have really been around. But people would associate these lower cost values with their phone. With T-Mobile kind of changing the market up and people realizing that unlocked phones were a bit of a good way to go, carriers have switched that over now to a payment plan system. And so that system is basically they're masking the full price of the phone again. And what they do is if you're buying a phone full price with no incentives, no deals or anything like that, you'll pay a monthly fee every year for 2 years. So they don't lock you into a 2-year contract. You can buy yourself out at any time. You can go to another carrier at any time, but you still have to pay for that device. So it's kind of a way to still lock you into their services. And what that is for most people, you'll put zero money down. You'll just pay the taxes on the phone, and then you'll pay $15 a month, $25 a month, even $35 a month. I'll take a look right now. As of 5:30 p.m. on 11/6, I'll take a look at Verizon's website right now, just so I can kind of get you some hard data on what's going on here with smartphones and kind of how things are a little convoluted and kind of how this is not the most consumer-friendly experience. But so again, the old way of doing things and this new way, while they are fundamentally different in terms of the legality, in most cases you're still kind of locked into a carrier for 2 years, and the true cost of the phone is masked. So let's say you want the new iPhone. I call it the iPhone X, but it's the iPhone 10. Say you want that phone. That's $41.66 a month. That's a retail price of $1,000. And that's zero APR. So you're basically taking out a short-term loan with whatever carrier to buy the phone with no interest. So it's buying something on credit and then paying it off in full basically is what you're doing. So it's $41.66 per month with the iPhone. Let's get to the Google Pixel 2. That's $27.08 a month for 24 months. That Pixel 2 XL is $35.41 per month. And then for those of you that really like the Galaxy S8, that's $31.50 a month. So, people obviously when they see low monthly payments, they're like, oh, I have an extra $30 a month. I have an extra, $25 a month. I can afford that. When maybe they see, okay, well, I have to pay, in the Galaxy S8's case, $756 retail price, at least according to Verizon. It's been on sale elsewhere. That's something that people really have a hard time kind of swallowing, a hard time wrapping their minds around, and spending all that money at one time. And so the landscape is just very convoluted. It's very strange in the U.S. buying phones. Now, this is a stark contrast to Europe, to Asia, and these other regions of the world where carriers don't do this sort of thing. If you go to a carrier for the service, you don't go to a carrier for the phone and the service. But in the United States, that's what you do. You walk into an AT&T store, a Verizon store, a Sprint store, and you want a phone and the service. So that's kind of what these carriers are doing, and they're making money off this. So it's a very strange system. It's in Europe and Asia, you buy the full phone, so they're well acquainted with. Okay, I want the new Galaxy Note 8. That's $960. I want the new LG V30. That's $840. So they're well aware that, okay, this is what I'm paying for the price of the phone. This is how much it costs, and they're well acquainted with what a phone's really worth. Whereas in the U.S., they they hide it behind those monthly payments. So, and unlocked phones are something I'm going to get into later, but it's just so convoluted the way that these things are working, and it's just not a consumer friendly thing in the US. So like if I want the LG V30, which I do want since I'm up for a new phone. If you didn't catch the first episode of the Eddie's Tech Talk podcast, which you certainly can, Verizon released me from my HTC payment plan because I was paying for that device and I didn't have it. So that was very, very nice of them to do. So I can get a new phone. So I went to the Verizon store, and these prices are so high. My HTC device payment was $25 a month, and a lot of the nice phones out there are $35 a month and things like that. With the LG V30 right now, you get $200 back. It's kind of like a mail-in rebate. With the Galaxy S8, you get a $250 Visa gift card with purchase. So you basically you have to redeem it, and it looks like you're in the Samsung Pay app in the case of that. So in addition to kind of spreading out these monthly payments over these periods of time, you also have to, if you want the good deal, the promo that they're doing, you have to, do all these extra steps and do all this extra work to maybe get some money off the phone. It's just it's such a convoluted system. And when you have all this going on with your monthly payments, and you go into a store, and in my experience, it takes a little bit. They have to get paperwork for you to sign and all this, because you're really taking out a loan with them. And then maybe you're gonna get this Visa rebate card, or you're trading in a phone and getting some money off, which carriers do as well. Like I said, the true cost of these phones is just really, really hidden behind these these rebates and these special offers and things like that, where a lot of times buying an unlocked device, which I'll get into, is a better option. In this is more of a personal finance kind of thing, but in my opinion, I think that the only loans that people really should have is on their house. Or something, an equivalent asset that appreciates. So when you buy a house, if you buy it in a nice market or in a nice location or what have you, that is going to appreciate or gain value over time. So it makes sense for you to take out a loan with 4 or 5% interest, 8%, whatever interest rate, because you would think that over the 15-year, 30-year period of your home loan, your home will gain more than your interest rate in value, if that makes sense. Whereas with something like a car or something like a cell phone, the only thing that device does over time is depreciate. It goes down in value. So you buy a new car, you drive it off the lot, and that now, over time that goes down in value. Nothing you're going to do to that car will make it go up. Same thing with a phone. You buy the iPhone 10 today, great phone, from all the reviewers that that I've seen. If you like the iPhone, that phone's not going to be worth $1,000 in a year, in 6 months even, and or 2 years. So, but you're still paying that full amount over the duration. So you're going to be paying $41.66 per month for your iPhone 10 in a year and a half. When, all right, they're on the iPhone 11 or 12 now or whatever it is, and you're still paying for that device as if it's worth $1,000, when it's not. And kind of hopefully this has kind of educated you a little bit on kind of, how this is just kind of a very convoluted, very strange process. And then the second part of the show here, I'm going to get into kind of unlocked phones and what those are, because that's a bit of a foreign concept to the American consumer, as we get into that. So, and then kind of why do people buy flagship devices as well? Why is that a popular thing? Why is that a thing that people keep doing? So first I'll get into why people keep buying flagship devices. And I'll talk about my personal experience a good bit, because I bought the Moto G5 Plus. That's a mid-range device from Motorola. I got that on Amazon Prime Day. It's the ad-supported version, so for those of you that don't know, a lot of phones on Amazon, you can get a discounted rate on the phone. You pay less for the phone if you agree to put ads from Amazon on your lock screen. So I bought this as a backup phone, not as my primary phone, for a number of reasons, which I'll get into. But I bought this as my backup phone while I sent my HTC in for warranty, which obviously, I haven't received back yet. So I bought this as a backup phone, and I've started using it, and I've just been so surprised. I mean, it doesn't have a quad HD display like all these newer phones. It doesn't have, it doesn't have a lot of the newer features. Doesn't have face unlock like the new iPhone, but it does so many things so well. Look up the phone and look up some reviews on it. I haven't done my review of it yet. That should be coming soon. But the Moto G5 Plus and its newer kind of half upgraded cousin, the G5S Plus, it's a great phone. And I bought this on Prime Day, the ad-supported version, for $175. I mean, that's outright. And, I was just talking about how phone costs have been masked. And how devices actually cost. The iPhone 10 $1,000, the Pixel 2 $650, the LG V30 $840, the Moto Z2 Force $556, which is a reduced price from what it used to be. So all these phones are so expensive. I bought this phone for $175. And I can almost guarantee I can put this in the hands of most people. And yeah, it has larger bezels because it's a budget device, so it doesn't give you that 2017 bezel-less look. But, if I just handed you this device and, for a week even, you wouldn't know that this is, even the non-ad supported version for the configuration I have was $300. And the normal price, I should say, was $229. So you're operating in that $230 to $300 range, and I give you this phone, and I mean, you wouldn't be able to notice a difference that's significant enough over a flagship phone. I would think that someone I gave this phone to would think this is probably maybe just below flagship caliber. If a normal flagship phone costs $700, they'd probably say, yeah, it's probably a $550, $600 phone. And that's how it acts, and that's how it behaves. But people keep buying these flagship phones. People keep buying these phones that are so great, and I want it too. Why do people want it? I think it's partially a keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing. I'm a college student here, and you'll notice among college students, we're eating a lot of ramen noodles or something, but a lot of people do have, later model year iPhones, maybe not the newest one, but the, last year's greatest version. Or, a lot of people will have the Galaxy S7 around campus. I know a friend of mine who has one. My roommate has the LG V20, and the LG V30 just came out. So people do have updated phones, even it's kind of like a status symbol, I think. And I think that people want that new phone. People want that newness, even if they don't necessarily need it. Because, to be honest, I think that the Moto G5 Plus and phones similar to it offer 99% of what a flagship delivers to you, but people don't know that it's out there for a variety of reasons. These phones, they don't have as big of a marketing budget behind them. If you're not a tech person like me and you didn't know that the Moto G5 Plus is out there, I don't know who would really know that it exists. I mean, there are a lot of phones out. This is kind of one that slips through the cracks because it's not Motorola's top phone. They're not putting their marketing budget behind it. And it kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. So, next time you go looking for a phone, next time you do these things, I would definitely encourage you to go look at a budget phone. And my phone is unlocked, which meant that I paid full retail price for it, like I said. And this phone in particular is compatible with every carrier. So I was able to bring this phone to Verizon. I put my SIM card in. I didn't even go in the store, and I had no problems at all, which is the case for unlocked phones that work with, whatever network you're on. So, I mean, why do people keep buying flagship phones? I think that it used to be really necessary. It used to be, each model year of phone that you went up was such an improvement over the model year before that by the time your contract expired or you had the funds for a new phone, I mean, that new phone was way better than the phone before it. And we're kind of getting to a point now with phones where people are differentiating, cameras are getting better, screens are getting better, stuff like that. But we're not seeing improvements as great as we used to see. We're just not seeing that exponential growth like before. And, I want a flagship phone, and I feel like I really need one. Because it has some features that budget phones miss out on, like contactless payments through Android Pay. In my case, I miss out on, the latest software upgrades, which is an Android problem. This phone will get upgraded to Android 8, which is the newest version, but not yet. So, for your next phone, I guess I would just say to kind of check out some budget phones, to do a little more research. See if, maybe you can just buy an unlocked phone, not be tied to a carrier, not be tied down like that, and, really just kind of save some money. I think that people are just buying these flagship phones because that's what the marketing budget's under, that's what their friend, and then, because that happens, that's what their friends have, that's what the cool people have, the early adopters have that, so then you see it and you want it, which is just a common marketing trend that we see. So, people keep buying flagship devices when I think that most people really don't need them. I'm a power user. I record a lot of video. I run a couple businesses. Obviously, I send a lot of email through school and work and all these other things, and I need strong battery life. I think that there is a use case where a lot of people still do need flagship devices, but the Moto G5 Plus actually has the best battery life of any phone I've ever owned, flagship or not. Which is huge for me and for a lot of other people too. And the 1080p screen versus the Quad HD screen, you hold them up next to each other and they don't look that different. So, this delivers, 99.9% of what you get in a flagship package, in a fraction of the cost phone. And I just think that a lot of people who just do casual email, don't game heavily on their phone, just go on Facebook and Twitter and kind of use the web and text some friends. I mean, you don't need much more than the Moto G5 Plus or a budget phone. You really don't. And we're seeing devices slow down less and lag less and last longer as they go on. So that's kind of, a reason why I think people really need to give these phones a look. But you won't find it at the Verizon, at the Verizon page because they don't sell the phone. It works on their network, but they don't sell it. And that's often the case with other carriers, too, who have bigger support for unlocked phones, like AT&T and T-Mobile have big support for unlocked phones. You have to go look for these devices on Amazon or other such places to find them. So that's kind of just a bit of a commentary on unlocked devices and kind of why people keep buying flagships when they don't necessarily need to. I think it's really kind of a status symbol, and a phone really is a tool that people use productively, a lot of the time. So, when people want to buy those phones, they're willing to spend the money. But I would kind of urge people to take a look at some more budget phones. My favorite phone of 2016 that I reviewed was the Moto Z Play, which was Motorola's upper, kind of low end of the higher end of their lineup. And that phone was great. It supported all the mods that the bigger phones did, which was kind of these accessories that you attach on the back of the phone. It supported, all the software that it did. It ran on a similar similar chipset. A bit of a slower chipset, actually the same one that's in my Moto G5 today, but enough similar specifications where you really felt like you were getting a flagship level experience. And I think that, I really was for a much lower price. In my opinion, that was just by far the best option in their lineup. And I hope that more manufacturers kind of follow that footprint of adding these budget specs into a flagship body or a flagship, looking phone, because like I said, the one major drawback of these budget phones is they kind of, to a certain extent, they look budget. They don't feel budget when you're using them, but, they do have a tendency to look it. And that saving money, it goes both ways, whether you buy an unlocked phone and it's a budget phone like the Moto G5 Plus, or you buy an unlocked phone and it's the Galaxy S8, which, like I said, has been discounted right now. If we navigate over to Amazon and we're going to go Galaxy, we're going to type in Galaxy S8. It looks like it's going for about, the US version is going for $718.46, and the same version, but the international version, which has support for more international bands, is going for $659, where if you go to the Verizon site, $756. So you're saving $50, $60 by buying it unlocked by Samsung. So that means you can bring it to Verizon, you can bring it to T-Mobile, you can bring it wherever. So whether you're buying a flagship device or you're buying a budget device unlocked, you really do get to save a little bit of money, even if you wait just a little bit after the device comes out, or maybe you buy it on release day. Because another thing that I haven't really gotten into, which I'll just touch on briefly here, is a lot of times you'll have a dirty ESN, and what that kind of means is while you still owe money to Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile or whoever you're kind of making payments to, usually you can't sell the phone. So let's say you need some quick cash and use a backup phone. Usually, since you're still paying per month on whatever phone you have, you can't sell that phone because it won't. The ESN is dirty, so it's kind of, I guess, blacklisted almost. So you won't be able to, whoever you sell it to won't be able to activate it on a network, because they'll say, well, we're still owed money for that. Why is this number that we don't recognize trying to activate on AT&T when someone else is paying us through T-Mobile for that? So even if you're like, wow, that's a lot of money to swallow, that's a big investment for me there. If you buy a phone unlocked totally, with no ties to any carrier, you pay all that money up front. A year down the line, when the new version comes out, let's say the Galaxy S9 comes out, instead of being locked into that 2-year plan where you're paying as if the device is still worth, $760 or whatever, you can sell your phone. And maybe you'll only get 60% of the value, 70% of the value back. But then you can, if you really want to, you have that flexibility to sell your phone and get the new phone, and not have those hassles, not have to pay off your phone and then sell it and do all those things. And then, like I said, you're also able to, on the newer flagship devices, they have support for all the carriers in the same phone. So if you decide you really hate your Verizon service and you want to switch, you can switch without having to pay that device payment plan off. So it just offers you such a greater degree of flexibility, whether you kind of go the route I suggest and get a budget phone, or you get the flagship phone, which is what I hope to do here soon anyway. But hopefully this helps you guys out, kind of explain things a little bit more about how buying a smartphone is a bit of a strange process in the United States. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, any feedback about the podcast in general, where it's going, please don't hesitate to leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next one.